What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 30 of Behind the Music Biz. I'm Matt Burrill. This year on Behind the Music Biz, we're going to be featuring all the Raised Rowdy personalities. So myself, Nikki T, Ike, all of our different personalities will be helping out Peyton with hosting these episodes. So this is my first time hosting an episode of Behind the Music Biz. Today, very lucky to have an artist manager, former tour manager, a guy who's been in the music game for a long time, multiple genres, knows the business inside and out, and I'm lucky enough to call him a really good friend. We got our man, Matt Woodson, with us. Matty, how you doing, brother?
What's up, dude?
Doing well. I'm
gonna have to correct you on the intro, though.
Gonna have to correct me.
Haven't been in the industry long.
Really?
I do not know the insides and outs of this thing.
I think you do.
Okay, is cussing okay? I'm trying to quit.
You can cuss.
But,
You can cuss.
My mom's gonna watch it, so I definitely have to, not cuss too much. But and at least one former youth pastor. But
okay. So I do see. Actually, yeah, you're right. Hasn't been in the. So you were working in tech and then transitioned into working in this thing, coming up on 3 years. So in 2022?
Yeah, coming up on 3 years full time. Coming up on 4, like blended time, if you will, where I was doing both. But yeah, I mean, I can start from the beginning if you want.
Yeah. So currently you're managing Lakeview full time.
Right.
Last that I had seen you were still on the road doing tour manager stuff outside of Lakeview. Are we still balancing?
No,
we're just full-time managing the beast that is Lakeview.
I haven't had my retirement party yet, but you'll get an invite.
Yeah.
I retired from, air quotes, I retired from tour managing in November of 24, so just a few months ago. And then, of course, I went like 2 weeks later, I went right on a European tour with Lakeview, not as a tour manager. We have an awesome tour manager. I just went to lend a helping hand and first European tour, so you got to go. But as far as like full-time tour managing as well as managing at the same time, those days are over.
Wow.
Yeah, which feels crazy because it was a lot.
Yeah, so I guess back us up to the beginning. So where are you from? I don't even know if I know your full backstory of where you're from. And
yeah.
I knew that you worked in tech outside of music. I didn't know it was as recent as fucking 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. It's honestly so wild. I'm from Florida, Vero Beach, Florida.
Okay.
Which, have you ever heard of that?
I have not
Exactly.
heard of Vero Beach.
No one has. It's so hard. The next question I get is, what is it near? Well, it's not near anything.
So what airport would you fly into to
I
get
would
there?
fly into Orlando, and then I would drive an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes home. So it's like halfway between West Palm Beach and Daytona on the East Coast. Awesome little beach town, and the only reason anybody really would know where that is, especially in town, is it's where Jake Owen's from.
Oh.
And so Jake Owen, I grew up on 8th Street. He grew up on 4th. My ex-girlfriend's family actually ended up buying his old house.
Wow.
Like, Jake grew up in the same community as me. That's where I learned like all about country music, is in Vero at a little Riverside, cafe dive bar. But so it's got a little bit of country roots now.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, a rider is like, "Oh, I've been to Vero," because Jake takes riders down there every year for his foundation.
Yeah.
And so you get like, you had like some of Ernest's guys go this year, Grady and a few others of those riders in the circle in the Raised Rowdy family, like starting to go down there. But that's where I'm from, man. Little tiny beach town. Nobody knows about it unless you love Jake Owen.
Yeah. So how do you go from that little beach town on the east side of Florida to Nashville?
By way of Arkansas, by way of Colorado, by way of Texas, and by way of now Tennessee.
Jeez.
Yeah, I went to school in Arkansas. Went to a private Christian school called Harding.
Okay.
You ready? I have a degree in healthcare administration. I went to nursing school.
Okay. I had no idea about any of this stuff. But it makes sense with the hospitality skill, like dealing with people and staying calm in situations.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you learn that.
I guess
in those
maybe.
classes, and that you need that as a tour manager, especially as an artist manager.
Dude, I have never been able to link nursing school to tour management other than like I'm pretty helpful in a medical emergency.
Yeah.
But that's a good one. Yeah. Maybe that's where the hospitality bone comes in.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was crazy. That was my degree. My dream at the time going through college, you know, the ideal plan was the like healthcare executive, you know, career. So whatever that meant in the executive team of a hospital or the executive team of a private like clinic or like whatever that looked like, that was kind of my goal at the time.
Yeah.
And so that's what moved me out to Denver, Colorado right after school, and started working in medical sales. Medical sales for a year or so. Crazy industry.
Yeah, good money in it too.
Yeah, listen, I made more money than I really deserved to make.
Yeah.
Being a graduate, and you know, it was a massive blessing. It didn't last very long for me because I just was like, man, this ain't it. I actually got pretty entrenched in the healthcare world right off the bat, and being in and out of multiple hospitals, operating rooms. Like I was doing interventional radiology procedures was like my thing.
You were in it.
Yeah, I was scrubbing in 3 or 4 times a week.
What years would this have been around?
This would be 2016, 2017.
Because you got out before COVID and all that.
Before COVID, I was out of healthcare, but I saw like getting in there, I was just like, this is not where I want to spend the rest of my life. It was like, man, I mean, we all know, you know, about the complexity of our healthcare system. It's like, I just couldn't see myself like really making an impact.
Yeah.
So, I got out of that and dove into tech at the time. And that was, you know, this is 2017, late 2017, where tech's taking over. Like apps are popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
People are really like sinking in. Uber's like one of the biggest apps in the world. They're the first like big unicorn. And so these like private startup tech companies were popping up all over Denver. And I ended up going to work for one of them in sales. And I did that from early stages. It was crazy. It was a payroll company, believe it or not. So I go from like operating room to sitting at a desk, like making 150, 160 cold calls a day.
Yeah,
like
just grinding.
Dialing.
Yeah.
Smiling and dialing.
Smiling
dude.
and dialing.
I mean,
Got to sound happy on your end of that line.
Oh man, this was before Zen popped off, man. I had a coworker I sat next to, just a good old boy like me and you. I mean, he just Zens all day long, man, smiling and dialing. Pop another one. Hello, are you interested in this payroll product? Dude, it was crazy, but it was really good money. It was a really fun atmosphere. And it was a company that like had this hyper growth. And so I went from like doing sales, being really good in my sales career there. Started training people in sales at every new hire we had. And we went from having like, you know, like a normal company that's growing, maybe a couple new hires a month or a quarter. I was leading sales training classes for 60 people every 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so it's like, a lot of people are like, oh, the tech industry or the startup tech industry, like you don't understand when you're in something like that, where it's like that amount of money is being pumped into something. It's just wild. Provided a big opportunity for me to learn like the scaling of a company and just like when you have something hot, what to do with it and how to get it going.
Same exact thing as being in the position that you're in now as an artist manager for a band and artist that is going boom like Jesse and Luke are doing. But continue with your story. We'll get into. I want to learn how this all leads into where you're at now.
I mean, we're pretty much there. I told you.
You said Texas.
I told you just so many stories. Man.
How'd you get from Colorado to Texas?
Okay, there you go. So that closes. That's what I did in tech, right? Which we'll talk about in a second because I think it is crazy because at first people are like, wait, what? Wait, what? When it's like, yeah, I know it sounds crazy. I understand, but legitimately everything that you do in your professional career, right? And when you have to start making money for yourself to support yourself, everything from that point is valuable, man. Like every single job I've ever had, I can somehow you already did it with nursing to tour management, which is crazy. But I can somehow draw a parallel from that job to like how it helps me in what I do now.
Yeah.
I think tech, obviously, that time spent in tech is huge for like how I approach and view the music industry and my position in it as well. So
Yeah, and you talk about cold calls and sales.
yeah.
A manager working with an indie act and growing that is
all
very
cold
much
calls.
you using the network and then knocking on every fucking door until one opens, just like working the sales in the tech company. It makes sense why
Yeah.
you're doing, why you and your group are doing so well. Like those skills that you learn now,
Yeah.
learning about the tech stuff, like
No, I appreciate that.
blends.
Dude. It does blend, man. I mean, the Lakeview guys set the pace and set the tone for how we conduct business and how that business has grown. And it's just, I think the combination of my background with the combination of their like hard work, hustle, and honestly just business mindset of like I came into Lakeview and they told me what Lakeview was. Like, make no mistake here. I did not come in and make this band.
Yeah.
So which is awesome. So it's like that combination has been awesome and really, quite lethal, I think, for us at least in the last few years. But yeah, Texas.
Where in Texas?
Austin. All right. So have you ever heard of something called remote year? It's my time to interview you.
Remote year.
Yeah. This was pre-COVID, before everybody was working remote. In the tech world, there was something called Remote Year, which was a company that you could either go and pay them and they just plan your whole life for a year and you travel the world and work
I've
from your computer.
never
right?
heard of this. Sounds like a hell of a concept.
Yeah, it was a pretty wild concept. You had to make some pretty good money, and you also just had to have the flexibility and freedom to do this from your company, right? So these small stage startup tech companies with limited overhead, no office, everybody spread out, you were able to do that. Well, it caught fire on TikTok, and then all these people started doing this remote year. And so then these companies were like, all right, listen, if you want to do this, you're going to have to like apply, and we can only have a couple people like do it a year, And it's similar to like how you would have to apply to like rent your condo out in Airbnb. It's like, we can't have everybody doing this at once. Like, this is insane.
Yeah.
So I applied to do this remote year in 2020, or even before then, in 2020 for 2021. And the whole idea here was like, I was just tapped out on Denver. I had like tough time there. I was there for almost 6 years. And I wanted to figure out where was next.
Yeah.
And so 2021, I took my remote year. The entire year was blocked off and approved for me to travel. I was working as a partnerships manager at the time for a different tech company, which also has been very useful.
Yeah, I was going to say, yes.
Literally all I did was like large scale integration partnerships. So like when you download an app and then it's ask you to connect to another app, like there's a whole deal that has to happen to make that happen.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole lot of work after that with all the computer stuff that I don't mess with.
Yeah.
But that's what I was doing. So, big deals, many months long, perfect opportunity for me to just hit the road and live around the world. So I ended up in Austin, Texas first or second. I went back a few times. I ended up living there for it was a brief stop, right? 6-7 months, but I still lived there. I had an address there. I had an apartment there. And I loved it. And I was just working remote there, meeting people.
It's a cool city.
Man, cool
Austin's
city.
fun. I like Austin a lot.
It's so fun. It's crazy now, like everywhere else. But 2021, it was going to that spring, summer of 2021, just the vibe of the city, like the paddle boards in the lake, and just like everybody's outside all the time, like just good vibes.
Which, coming from Denver during COVID, that's very refreshing to just see people outside like that.
Denver during COVID was, I legitimately did not leave my apartment for
you couldn't.
days and days at a time.
Yeah.
It was the wildest thing. Meanwhile, like all my family in Florida is just like, what's going on?
We're living it up. Yeah.
Nothing's changed here.
Yeah, dude, it's wild times.
It's interesting to hear how everybody's experience differed from city to city.
Yeah.
As well.
Like I was down here.
Yeah.
So I was shut down for like a sec, and then we were going again by like July.
Yeah. So like your experience of COVID was completely different than mine because of where I lived in the country.
Yeah.
It's just, it's wild.
Wild stuff.
But so I did Austin just for a while, and then I wanted to try. My plan was like, all right, Austin's my spot. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna move here. I'm gonna live here. I'm gonna do the whole thing here. I have to go check out these other cities while I still have this like remote year. And so Nashville was next. After Nashville was gonna be Boston. Then I was going to do a little bit of time in New York, and then head back to Florida for the holidays, wrap up the year, and get ready for the move to Austin.
Good plan.
That was the plan.
Yeah.
Got to Nashville and never left. So,
Well, what was it about this city, and had you been here before?
it was music, and I had been here before. I've been coming here for a long time, just like growing up, either driving through here as kids on like a road trip, or I came on like a mission trip here one time and like with the church, and I spent like a week at Belmont. So yeah, I'd been to Nashville like maybe 5-6 times throughout my life. So kind of knew what it was about, kind of saw the growth. Never had really been as an adult. So like the Broadway thing was never, I remember pulling up to Ernest Tubbs on Broadway circa 2014. Maybe we were checking out Belmont as a college. No, this was earlier than that then, 2012. And parents like parked their minivan right in front of Ernest Tubbs on Broadway in a little metered spot. And like that was it. There was nothing going on down there.
Yeah.
And I think like first of all, Ernest Tubbs isn't even there anymore, and then the idea of pulling your car up and parallel parking on the curb on Broadway is hilarious now.
Yeah, dude. Oh, yeah, completely different time, and just going in there looking at records and everything. And then so worship was a big part, it sounds like, of your upbringing.
Yeah.
A lot of guys and girls that work in music have that as part of their story. But you were out on you played guitar within a worship band? Is that what I'm seeing on here?
Yeah, so like my connection to music's like pursuing a career and a life in music was, now I'm realizing, like was programmed from the start for me.
Yeah.
And I just didn't lean in. And I think there's a whole nother discussion there about like young people that feel like, whether it's music or creative or anything, if it's like, dude, I just can't get enough of this.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it's right for like a career. Like, oh man, no, just lean in.
Just go for it.
Earlier you lean in, man, the more magic starts to happen, I think. Like, but yeah, so always loosely connected to music, played guitar, played drums in youth group, like did the whole like piano lesson thing for a lot of my childhood. And then when I was living in Denver, so back to Denver, when I was living there, started going to this church out there called Red Rocks Church. That church ended up becoming, like, in 2020 or 2019, was like the 4th fastest growing church in America.
Wow.
So it turned into like this large multi-campus, mega church vibe. And then there was a small campus that started up in the mountains, and that's where I was like, yo, I'm down to help with that one.
Yeah.
And they needed a guitarist, and started playing guitar for them. And that's when I actually started playing, like taking guitar seriously. Like I was making good money. I had a lot of time on my hands. I dug in and, kind of made that leap into like becoming an amateur guitarist. The worship at that church, if you go to like a non-denominational church with full production, like people know, right?
Yeah.
There's a ton of them here in town. It's insane.
Oh yeah, I always joke, like I didn't grow up in that world, but like where it's like, this is Sparta, I'll go, this is mega church. Like I call it rock star church because growing up in New York, I grew up Episcopalian, so it was like old people in the choir vibes,
Yeah, Rockstar.
Rockstar Church. You get a concert, man. It's awesome.
Well, I went to a Rockstar
yeah.
church.
Oh, you were in. You were on the stage.
Yeah, Red Rocks. Red Rocks was the Rockstar church.
And it's so cool, like that. It's
churches.
called Red Rocks with
Yeah.
like that venue, that shed being so.
I know,
iconic.
man. Oh, so iconic. And living in Denver, I just 3 times a week I was at shows, dude. Just
No shit.
Well, it's like, especially working in tech, where everybody's young, everybody's making good money. we're done at 4:00 in the afternoon. Like nobody's picking up their phone on the other end. Like we're sending emails and we're out of there.
So you're just going.
We had a bar in the office. We had a full catering every single day. Like everybody's chill. And it's like, all right, who's playing at Red Rocks tonight? And then all of a sudden, like 2 of your friends turns into like 20, and you're hopping on the turtle bus downtown and taking it for $35 to the venue, and it's Tuesday night.
That's awesome.
And then you do it again that weekend. Yeah, it's like going to see a movie.
Yeah. Who were some of your favorite shows when you got to go out there?
Oh, man, dude, I like EDM stuff, so Disclosure was like mind melting for me. That'll be a show I always remember forever. Rufus the Soul, obsessed with them. But then, like, dude, we've seen so many different folks out there. The Need to Breathe show, actually, so crazy. Those guys live are, like, just insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Turnpike Troubadours, but before they were headlining.
Oh, yeah, that was one of their early. That was like one of the early country acts to.
Early support acts. I can't remember who was headlining. I was there for them. That was a crazy show. It might have been like Whiskey Myers or something like that. Man, yeah. Just a lot of them that I can't remember.
Yeah, the fact that just Red Rocks right there, you're like, oh, fuck it. I'll go. I'll buy a ticket to this show.
I always tell people you could see a kid like playing fiddle on stage not very well, and you'll still buy a ticket to go see it. It's just like, yeah, all right.
That's awesome.
Like we're good, just the atmosphere or whatever. That's
cool.
But, I don't even know where we were. We were in Denver again. Oh, talking about guitar.
Talking about talking about Nashville. Yeah. So you end up, you come out here as part of that that remote year, and you come out here and you're like, well, guess I'm staying here now.
Yeah.
So then what happens when you decide to stay here? Because I see you've got a laundry list of artists in the CCM world. It seems like that's kind of where you started.
That was my entry point, right? Because I was playing guitar for this church. The band was insane. I grew as a guitarist. We started playing shows and touring and traveling and getting paid to play. And it was like, oh, wow, we have something real here. And then they signed a record deal with Sony. And so when we signed that record deal with Sony, on the church end, not a whole lot of people within the church necessarily were necessarily like up to speed on the music industry.
Yeah.
Not to say I was either. I had like this much of a like interest and entry point into it, and so I essentially started volunteering to just fly to Nashville back and forth. And so this is back in 2017 before we even got here.
Yeah.
And I had a reason to come to Nashville and explore the industry now, because now all of a sudden I played guitar for a worship band who signed a record deal.
Signed at Sony.
Yeah, it was like, all right. So I came to town. First thing I did was set up booking agent meetings everywhere in town. It was so easy. I couldn't believe how easy it was. I hit the guys up on LinkedIn, like found the agents on LinkedIn, like hit them up. I was like, hey, this is what's going on. Started meeting some cool people. You know how Nashville happens. Oh, you should meet.
So you're playing and you're essentially managing.
Not really. Maybe no.
That's stuff that a man or were there other people within the band doing these meetings with you?
Let me be clear. No one asked me to do this.
No. Yeah. But you're.
I was in a way I was exploring like what do we need to do? Like we signed a record deal now, so like what do we need to do? That we didn't have a manager at the time. And it was like, I didn't work for the church at the time. I did end up working for the church for a brief amount of time. But yeah, I was pseudo doing that, right? I was like looking for ways to grow the business.
Because you were hungry and you were interested.
I was interested. I was hungry.
Yeah.
And I had time on my hands. I was still working in tech, obviously. And so I did that. And I started doing that. I started laying kind of just bricks, foundations, like just little nuggets, meetings, building like very baseline relationships. And I think that's when the spark kind of first was set for me to be like, oh, you know what? One day I want to give music a go. I'm going to go try to make a bunch of money so I can figure that out.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like, one day in the far away land. But during that whole time it just takes like meeting one person, right? I met this manager. At the time he was managing Andy Mineo, and this was before coming in hot, well before coming in hot.
Yeah.
And he managed David Crowder, who's a big rocker in the Christian space and whatnot. And so we became excellent friends. He was like such a champion of me to like make the jump and join the industry at some point. he would offer me tour offers all the time. I'm like, his name's Joe Angel. I was like, Joe Angel, I can't leave this like insanely good paying job with great benefits and like to go like hop on a Christian tour for a few $100 a day. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like, but when I got to Nashville and when I was here, just kind of like checking it out and exploring the city, we ended up getting coffee just to catch up. At this point, we've known each other for a couple of years. At Pinewood. You remember Pinewood?
Yeah.
The original Soho House of Nashville.
Yes. Pinewood Social.
Dude, that's where everybody hung out. That's where all the meetings were conducted. But this was like 2021, August of 2021. So like COVID was still kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I was just new to town. He got a phone call in the middle of our meeting. And it was like the other line was a manager, a friend of his. He's like, yeah. Hangs up. He looks at me. He's like, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I have nothing. I just got here. I don't know anybody. Yeah. He's like, well, that was my friend so-and-so. His tour manager tested positive for COVID this morning. Bus calls tonight. Like, this is your chance. Do you want to go out and do this? And I'm like, dude, excuse me.
Yeah.
Do I want to go like tour manage somebody right now? Like just hop right on in and be a tour manager for the weekend? Like, pretend play? And he's like, yeah. I was like, dude, you're insane. He convinced me to do it. That was a moment that like changed it all for me.
Yeah.
Was me like I asked him if I could take the afternoon and think about it, which is insane. I think there's just a lot of insecurity there of like,
well, you had never done it before, dude.
Well, and I'm like, dude, I'm working full time in tech. I'm like, dude, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how I'm gonna actually do this. But then I realized it was like one of those moments where if you don't say yes, like you just never know.
Yeah.
And so I called him back. I'm like, yeah, dude, what do I need? What do I need to do? He's like, well, you need to drive down to Brentwood and there's a Kroger parking lot.
Yep.
And you need to park your
God
car
bless
there.
a Kroger bus call, baby.
And you need to meet the bus and it's going to pick you up and it's going to take you and everybody's going to be there. And I'm like, this sounds like the most psychotic thing I've ever heard. As an outsider, right? It's not crazy to us now because it's just that's the reality for the industry. But as an outsider to the industry, I'm like, yeah, of course I knew buses existed. I knew how tours worked. But this guy's like, that morning was like, yeah, there you go. You're going to go tour manage for the weekend. That was a Christian act. His name's Jordan Feliz. He's a very good friend and just awesome. He's gone on to have like multiple number ones on Christian radio. But I hopped on this bus with this artist I'd never heard of, with a band and crew I had never met, didn't even know what everybody did. Yeah. And of course they're like, what is happening?
Who is this guy?
This guy's never been a tour manager before. I still don't know. I have to call his manager sometime and ask him the conversation that he had with Jordan, because I'm very curious on how he convinces artists to allow me to tour manage him for the weekend.
Yeah.
But it was sick, man. It was like a kid picking up a bicycle, having never ridden one before, and for whatever reason, they just crush it. It's awesome. Like it's like a freak athlete, right?
Yeah.
It's like a freak athlete that you see. I love watching the X Games. Like those 17, 18-year-old kids who have just like, they started on a snowboard when they were 4, and dude, they're just freaks. It just made sense from the start. And for me, that's kind of what touring was like. It was like, just clicked right away.
Yeah.
Came back, caught the bug. And yeah, like then that's where it all started for me. It was just from there, it was like, how do I keep getting more opportunities to get on the road?
Yeah, you just want to be out 52 out of 52 weekends of the year if you can.
Yeah, you know what it's like.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
we met on the road. You remember when we met first time?
Was it with?
You won't offend me, but I remember.
What gig?
Special to me.
What gig would it have?
Oh, dude, it was a.
Was I with Trey?
You were with Trey. Yeah.
I was with Trey. Fuck. Where would it have been? Was it a festival? No.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a festival?
Yeah, this is good.
Oh no. Was it the Country Boom in Wisconsin?
Oh, nope.
Rock the South?
Nope.
I'm trying to think of what Auburn Rodeo? I'm trying to think of what festivals I did with Trey.
It's a festival that I guarantee you will never go back to.
Oh, no, West Virginia. Yeah. Oh, God bless. Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah, Wyatt introduced us, and you were selling merch for Trey, and I was there with Seaforth.
Yeah.
Oh, man, those guys still talk about that gig, too. Being
Dude, so does
absolute
Trey.
worst. Yeah.
Tracy Lawrence, Lainey Wilson, the Davison brothers.
Dude, Lainey was there.
Lainey was direct support.
I forgot.
Lainey's bus got stuck.
Yes, her bus was
like
stuck
in the
as
morning.
hell,
Her
yeah.
bus got stuck in the morning
that
and
shit
got
was
stuck on the way
so
out.
stuck. Yeah, her bus was. I mean, yeah, I forgot about that whole ordeal.
So that's something that we can talk about. In that walking in, like for the young guy or girl that's listening, that's like, I want to go on the road. I want to do this. This Matt guy seems to know what he's talking about. A story. Like, what do you do in that type of situation where you're going in? It's a soft gig festival, and nobody knows what the fuck is going on. Like, how do you approach that as a TM?
Dude,
and especially being with the Seaforth guys who had been on some very different, like for them going to Markleysburg, or what? No, it wasn't even. It was what?
I can't remember the name.
Mineral Wells, Mineral Wells, West
Virginia.
Virginia.
I would never remember it.
Yeah, Mineral Wells, West Virginia, which is very out of market. It was very fitting for like where we were going. We were going all kinds of small towns and playing mud bogs with Trey Lewis.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the most off the wall thing we did.
Pretty normal for you
but
guys.
rolling with the Seaforth guys, like
that was the most culture shock thing you've ever. I mean, you saw it. That was like, what the?
Yeah. So how do you going in completely blind like that as a TM? Like, what is? Yeah. How do you kind of troubleshoot that whole day? Because the advance for that, from what I remember, was a pain in the ass too.
The advance was like it didn't really exist, right? So like, there's not a whole lot of information going in, so it could go one of two ways. But truly, you don't think it would go that bad. Like, everybody, every TM, every band, you do this for a reason. Like, you handle bad gigs. Like, bad gigs are a dime a dozen, unfortunately. Like, until you get to a level where you can control more elements than the gig can, right? So it's like, until you get there, your whole thing is like, how do we pivot? How do we be flexible? How do we mold? Which is how, by the way, a tech company operates.
Yeah.
But it's that one particularly was it was not a whole lot of information. I remember getting ready to start the Seaforth set, getting ready to go for show. And of course we call for house music off, right? Like normal. Okay, everybody ready? Everybody ready. All right, great. Let's cut house music and stand by for go for show. Great. Radio monitor guy radios. Jimmy, can you cut the house music? I look out there, house music's still on. Mitch and Tom are looking at me like, okay, here we go. We're like, okay. I look over, see the front of house guy just literally, he like threw his hands up. Hey, Jimmy, cut the house music. Front of house guy literally looking, finally remembers he has a radio on.
Yeah.
He radios. I don't know how to turn it down. I'm turning the knob down, but it's still on. So that was the gig, right? So it was like, that was step one. And then the whole entire set, nothing worked. They couldn't hear themselves. The in-ear packs didn't work. The monitor guy, I went and realized, after the gig, had never actually run monitors before.
Yeah.
And neither had the front of house guy. So it's like, yeah, it was one of those. Dude, I mean, honestly, you had to, for me, as a tour manager, right? If you're asking like what you have to do as a tour manager in that situation, you have to figure out what elements you can control and what elements you can't. While
keeping the artist composed.
And you have to remain composed. And that's the hardest part. Truly is and any artist I've ever worked with will tell you, like, I'm not perfect. Like, I have lost my composure before. That's part of it, but like never like publicly, and never bad, right? It's usually just like give me a fucking second, right?
Yeah.
But and that's the thing is like, okay, so now you're troubleshooting. How do you fix this while you have artists who are like, right, all the inputs, I call them inputs. Like, as a tour manager, you walk into a venue, you're going to have so many thousands of inputs that day. Hey, Matt, where should I put this water? Oh, hey, Matt, where's the merch? Oh, hey, what are we pricing the T-shirt at? Oh, hey, why isn't this working? Oh, hey, is Ern ready for his bus? Like, come from the bus. Oh, hey, it's like your inputs all day long, and so in that moment, you're getting inputs from the artist, and you're trying to sort it all. But you just, I mean, that's why I think as a tour manager, like you either get it or you don't.
Yeah.
Because you just have to remain pretty calm in that sense.
Yeah.
And you also just have to like shake off the stuff that you can't control. And that's where I think that's where everybody, including myself, gets hung up.
Yeah, you have to have thick skin.
It's like, yeah, oh yeah. It's like I can't control the fact that the sound guy and like both of our sound guys have never done this before. I have no control over that now. We don't carry our own sound guy. I have a little bit of sound knowledge. I hopped on and like I was rescanning packs. Like the guy had no idea how to scan the packs. But like we couldn't control it. And at that point, I have to let Mitch and Tom know, like, hey guys, this one's as the Australians say, this one's fucked, mate. this one's done. We're just gonna have to, raw dog this one.
Yeah.
And so, they got their professionals, and that band is sick, and they got the job done. But they tossed their packs on the ground. They pulled out their ears. There was no wedges, and it was up to the drummer to like somehow keep the click. And they pulled it out, but like there's nothing I could do at that point.
Yeah.
We have to get the show going. So
yeah,
they crushed it. It's very much a team effort. But if I would have melted down in that moment, the show would have just never happened, right? Because they wouldn't have had any direction.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to be confident in giving direction, because at the end of the day, like you're in this together. It's your responsibility.
It's a team sport, dude.
Yeah, it's your responsibility to execute this show, and it's the artist's responsibility to perform the show. But like, if those two aren't working in tandem, then one of them's gonna fail.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And so you spent time out with Seaforth. You spent time out with Sam Henshaw, with Patrick Dorney, with Ern, and then Quinn XCII, which was the gig you were on up until recently, right?
Yeah.
So what was it like kind of jumping into all these different genres? Because the shows are different. Obviously, the music's different. The crowds are different. The structure, like the buyers and the promoters are different.
Yeah.
Like you're dipping in a few different worlds.
Yeah.
What was that all like?
It was crazy. It's awesome. I wish everybody did it, because they're different. They're the same industry and they're the same concept at the end of the day, but they're different. It's different how they operate. The level of professionalism is like different from genre to genre. The entire, like the artist needs, I think that's a big one too. Artist needs are different from genre to genre. It's crazy. It was awesome though. I think it gave me a lot of experience and well-rounded, and that's just because I was just started saying yes. Once I got out of the Christian touring industry, I was like, that was a great stepping stone. I did a couple awesome tours, learned a ton, then took on Seaforth, and then from there I just was like, who's hiring, like who needs help? And I did anything and everything, and that's what led me to these like weird random cross genres. I went to Asia with Sam Henshaw. Like Sam Henshaw is a UK London-based R&B soul singer, like unbelievable dude. Literally just played his vinyl last night cooking dinner. It's like one of those. It's like, I'm gonna cook a steak, I'm gonna put this vinyl on.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, got a random person who I'd met through on Christian touring who was like, hey, this came across my desk, you want to do this tour to Asia with Sam Henshaw? I'm like, again, one of those moments where I'm like, I have no business doing this. I was like 6 months in at the time to touring, and I was like, yep, I'll do it. And this was again 2021, so like getting into Asia during that time, like we all had we had to go through like high levels of clearance with the government, because the public wasn't allowed in because of COVID. Those countries were still locked down, so we had entertainer visas. Artists didn't have.
So how did the shows happen?
Dude, crazy. The shows happened. They were masked shows. Yeah, very COVID shows. These are the first shows back in Asia at the time.
Wow.
And I went to Tokyo, where I was the only white person. I was the only white person there. Like, I just truly was. It was the craziest thing ever. I didn't see any other tourists, any other travelers. because they weren't allowed in the country.
Yeah, but you treat it just like any other show.
Yeah, except, it's all different and backwards and upside down.
Yeah. How
Like
is it different? What are the biggest challenges of advancing and the overseas planning, and especially like in Eastern culture? Because like Europe is still like Western culture. Like it's a lot closer to us than going to China or Japan or Korea is.
Yeah. Luckily, these were Live Nation shows, so luckily the advance process is pretty smooth there. It's just as you would advance a show here, you have someone who is English speaking and Japanese speaking or Korean speaking. So that the advance process is actually pretty smooth. Really, the most difficult process was the visa process at the time. And now that again, I'm 6 months into this, I didn't know that people existed to like take care of visas.
Yeah.
I found out, and of course, like, at the time that wasn't something that was in the budget because it's expensive to hire somebody to do that. So it was up to the tour manager to figure out, which a lot of times it is.
Yeah.
And so navigating the visa stuff, my drummer actually ended up, there was only 2 of us stateside. Everybody else was based globally. And my drummer is based out of St. Louis. And he had to drive overnight to Chicago to pick up his visa from the Japanese embassy in Chicago because it's the only one that was like operating, and still nobody was there. They had to make an appointment and drive there. And like, dude, it was so hard.
Yeah.
But once you get over there, it's like your promoters help you a lot with the on-ground logistics, the travel logistics. The tough part is keeping everybody kind of happy and healthy. And so like food's really tough, right? Nobody knows what to eat. You're trying different things. It's affecting your stomach. Like everybody's just kind of like in this weird spot, and you gotta like keep that on track as a TM.
Yeah.
Making sure like there's the specific like non-negotiable needs for the band and crew are over there. Like, hey, like I know we're in a different country. I know this is gonna be hard to get, but like I really need this type of water, or like I really need this particular beverage or tea or snack. Like this is imperative to making sure these guys feel comfortable, right? So those are the pieces. The hospitality piece comes increasingly harder because your ability to be hospitable is like restricted.
Yeah.
Because you're in a place where nobody speaks your language, and like you've never been there.
Yeah.
And it's just like things are different.
Yeah.
But it's all, at the end of the day, it's the same but different.
Yeah, dude. That's freaking wild. So then how do you end up taking on, you go on the road, you spend all these years doing the tour manager thing, bounce around, filling in on gigs, obviously going out with Seaforth, doing all that stuff, to where you're like, all right, I want to manage an artist. I want to manage an act.
Yeah.
So how do you get with the Jesse and Luke from Lakeview?
Yeah, dude. We talked about my like worship and church being like a big part of my story. Like faith is just a huge piece for me. Like it's just this entire story of how I met the guys, and even looking back over the last 3 or 4 years, like all the different artists I work with, how they were intertwined is just all such like a God thing. Like it's not possible unless like somebody else is like navigating it for me above. Like it's wild. But I'm doing everything on the road at the time. I think once I took the leap, so I think a big thing to take like one step back is the leap I eventually had to take between doing both tech and tour management and like fully diving into just tour management, right? And so that was like, I did both. I took a tour. I did a 2-month tour, mostly theaters and arenas, 3 buses, 2 trucks. I was like the tour manager assistant. That was my first big tour for David Crowder. I did that while I worked tech.
So you're working remote, sending emails, doing the Zoom thing.
18 hours a day. And I called my boss and I was like, hey, this sounds crazy, but like I have an opportunity to go on tour. Isn't that sick? Like I made him think it was like really cool.
Yeah.
Like, And he was like, yeah, really weird. And I was like, dude, one-time thing, will never happen again. It's just once in a lifetime. I got to do it. Like, I'll still work till 4 every day. Is that cool? Yeah, that's cool. We had 3 buses. So on the crew bus, I ended up somehow like convincing the manager and everybody to allow me to use the back lounge as an office every day till 4 p.m. So like my office, my private office was the back lounge of like this crew bus every day. I was taking Zoom calls with like, C-level executives at companies like in the back of a tour bus in like who knows where, Louisiana. And I did that for like 4 or 5 months, and it got to where the point was like, okay, you have to make a decision now. Like, are you going to do this or not? Because you can't do both. It's not sustainable. And that's how I approach like even working with Lakeview and management as well. Pretty much everything I've done so far is like this constant process of like establish the dream or the goal and then be smart about how you work towards it. Like support yourself as you work towards it. Don't be stupid and just like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And just have no plan in sync. Yeah. Like you're not setting yourself up for success. So how do you get to a point where you can set your success, self up for success? So that was like, February of 2022 was when I created my LLC. I called it Magic Management because my Instagram handle from college is Mattboy Magic, dude. Whatever. It was a joke, right? Yeah. I was like, I called my accountant. I called my buddy who's who's a lawyer. Called them both. I'm like, hey guys, I'm doing this. It's insane. Don't give me shit for it, but like, I'm gonna go be a tour manager for a year. I'm just going to try it out for a year and see what happens. What do I need to do, financially and legally and whatnot? So I created the LLC. I named it Magic Management. I spelled it with a J and a K, M-A-J-I-K. And I cannot make this up. I spelled it with a J and a K because I didn't want people to think I managed magicians.
Yeah. Yeah. Honest mistake. Honestly, like an honest mistake that people will say is fucking magicians.
Dude, when have you ever met anybody who's like, yeah, I'm a magician manager?
There could be out there. They could be.
I mean, they definitely are out there. Chris Angel's definitely got a manager.
Oh yeah, Mind Freak, absolutely,
man, absolutely. Man, he's got to be a very rich person.
In the moment, your buddies are probably like, "What the fuck?"
It was a joke. It wasn't public facing, right? It was just for tax purposes. Yeah. And my email, which what a terrible mistake. Wyatt works with me. Wyatt Carmichael, you've had him on here.
Oh yeah, we love Wyatt.
We have same email, and he's like, Matt, when are we gonna get a new email? I can't spell this shit on the phone every time. It doesn't make sense. People are like, what? It's magique? Like, what is? Yeah. Anyway, so that's a whole other conversation. Magique. But I create this LLC. That's I take awesome. This like full dive in. I'm working, I'm working with all these different acts. I'm saying yes to quite literally everything. And yeah, dude, I somehow talked myself in a circle that I forgot what you asked.
How you met Jesse and Luke.
Yeah, how I met Jesse.
How you met obviously. Jesse and Luke, and how you end up making the decision to.
Yeah, so I'm tour managing, and at the time, obviously, when you get into tour managing, I'm like thinking, okay, if I'm going to do this, like eventually I want to manage, right? That's the natural progression for I won't say a lot of tour managers, but I think a lot of tour managers want to do that. A lot of people in the industry want to become a manager. I'm like, all right, this is my entry point. I'm starting as tour manager. I'm getting the network. A tour manager interacts with every piece of the puzzle of an artist's career. Going to meet all these people until I either get picked up by a management company or... Yeah, that was kind of like the goal, I guess. I don't really know. Like, I never sought to be an independent manager. Our buddy, mutual friend at church, introduces me to Jesse and Luke. One day he's like, hey, man, I know you made this switch into music and you're trying this thing out, and it's awesome. I was working with Seaforth at the time. And he was like, I just would love for you to meet my buddies. They're awesome. They have a country project. They were like... buzzing in 2019, just got signed, everybody's talking about them, and then obviously COVID happened, and just kind of like they just lost it all, like not necessarily like they got dropped by any means, but momentum's a thing, right?
Yeah.
And like what a buzzkill momentum like COVID was for any momentum for a lot of things,
Yes.
the whole world,
Yeah.
especially music, especially developing acts who like their only way to get music out at the time was like to put it up on and stream, but also to go play live shows.
Yeah.
So I met these guys. We went and got a drink, and we literally just, dude, we didn't talk about, we didn't really even talk about music that night. I show up at, I'm like, oh, this is my first meeting, I'm like, why don't we go somewhere nice? We went to the rooftop of the W Hotel, went to Proof, and I show up, and these guys are dressed just like they normally are, boots, jeans, flannels, tattoos. Not that they, that's part of their dress, but tattoos, head to toe. Jesse and Luke, rough cut Pittsburgh dudes. Smell great. Sit down. I'm like, wow, you guys, you could tell like they're like, yeah, we got to clean up or we're going to come to a place this fancy. I think they said something along that line.
Yeah.
And we had a couple old fashions that night, and all we talked about was heartbreak. We talked about faith. We talked about our jobs, like first jobs. We've both been working forever. My first job was 14 as a bag boy at Publix. Before that, I was cutting grass starting at 9. My dad drove me around to my different accounts with my trailer and all my equipment. Been working forever. Same with these guys. And we just talked about that, like that whole thing of just a couple dudes, like realizing they're pretty much the same. Yeah. And then it evolved into like talking about songwriting and where like how that is really kind of the premise of what Lakeview is and what their music and their project is about. And it's about authenticity. That moment, that first meeting with them was 3 dudes just being authentic with each other. Yeah. And just being real. And like I was, at the time I was in a tough spot. Like a lot of fun things, but I was terrified, dude. I just left my job. I'm like, I don't even know how I'm gonna pay for these drinks.
You're full on betting on yourself.
Literally betting on myself, which again, that was a quote. That was like something a mentor told me when I was like calling around trying to figure out if I should actually roll the dice on this. And I had a very successful like, business mentor buddy of mine who's just like, Matt, like, think about the fact that like, and this is the best advice I could give anybody who is going to try to do anything on their own or just dive into anything, especially the industry. If you've worked for somebody else, think about the fact that somebody else has been betting on you the whole time. Like a multi-million-dollar, multi-billion-dollar company is willing to bet on you, right? Yeah. So like, why won't you bet on yourself? If like somebody else worth a lot more money than you are is willing to bet on you with little information, why wouldn't you bet on yourself? Yeah. So
great point.
But yeah, just did the whole bet on myself. But that, yeah, man, just that first meeting with the guys was just sick. It's just all we talked about. And then they sent me some demos and told me their story. And I was like, hey, I'm not a manager. Like, I just started this. Like, just started doing tour management full time. It's like, I'm trying to meet people in town. More than happy to, like, bring you along where it makes sense, which is insane to think about now. Like, I would schedule meetings with people and then, like, hit them back and be like, hey, you mind if I bring these 2 tattooed guys along with me? And it's like, sure. I just had no concept, right, of, like, the formalities of the industry. In tech, it was just kind of the Wild West, dude. You were prospecting on LinkedIn every day. Yeah. You were meeting new people, and I was flying places and having coffees and just doing stuff with new people all the time. It's just like, yeah. Meet somebody else? Yeah. Meet somebody else? Yeah. So, like, I just assumed that's what it was like incorrectly here. But
it is though. It is. It's important to do that, but it's not. People aren't all jumping at the bit to do it. But if you're going to do this fucking thing, you need to do that. Yeah. You need to meet new people. You need to go out. You need to have that business mindset like you had with tech. You need to have that here. Yeah. If you want to level up.
Yeah, and you also need to have understanding too. I think that's like a big thing because me as a young guy, trying to break into music late, like I had already had a career before this. I already had 2 careers before this.
Yeah.
I'm like,
and how old are you?
I'm 31.
You're 31. So I just turned 30. So we're about that same ballpark.
I just turned 31. But yeah, I had already like climbed the ranks, put the time in, and like worked my way up into a great position career-wise, like twice. And I think going into the music industry, I had to somehow just be like, yo, you got to, first of all, you got to start at the bottom. You just got to suck it up and understand that you're going to make $150 a day selling merch and driving a Sprinter van. Like, you just have to, you're not in a tour bus. You don't have a hotel room. If you do, it's shared with a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it was like, I had to come to terms with that reality, which I did. I saved up enough cash to like offset my, lifestyle expense or whatever. And I was able to do that. But what I didn't realize at the time, when I'm flying emails out trying to connect with people, and when I'm getting so many like ignored emails and like, kicking the can down the road, like, oh yeah, how's coffee next week? And then, oh, sorry, I can't do it today. Let's reschedule. And then it never gets rescheduled. It's a pretty common thing in Nashville. Like,
yeah.
I at the time I was frustrated. It was like, why am I not getting time of day from these people? And now it's like, first of all, I was so dumb. My outlook there was just arrogant. But now being on the other side of it and receiving those emails, I do my best to answer every single one of them, even if it's like, hey, I just don't have time. But it's not that people don't want to talk to you. It's that, dude, this is a demanding job and it's a demanding industry, no matter where you are on the rank.
Yeah.
I think that's what's crazy, because in corporate America and tech and like most of the rest of the world, the higher you go, right, the idea is that your responsibility becomes more, but your actual workload becomes less and your paycheck becomes more. That's climbing the ladder. In music, dude, you are busting your ass at $150 a day in the Sprinter van, and you're busting your ass as a CEO of a record label, like, and everywhere in between.
Yeah.
And so time is so valuable to every single person in this industry that you have to respect it. You have to understand it, but you also, got to be strategic and have the conversations, and where can you add value, right? That's how I like approached everything, is like, how can I add value to this person, which 9 times out of 10 I couldn't, but maybe the value was a cup of coffee for free that I was willing to buy, Yeah. So there was a lot of that until Lakeview finally was like, hey, will you just manage us?
When was that?
That was like after 5 of these meetings with other managers and people. And that was, it was 2022, like probably March or April. And I was like, again, it was another one of those moments where it's like, okay, I tried to say no to this. It's not working. So sure. With the like very caution label of like, hey guys, like, I've never done this before. I don't exactly know what I'm doing. So like, I'm going to need help.
Yeah.
And man, the last 3 years of managing Lakeview has honestly been co-management. Like, I think that's why you've seen the growth. Are we on top? Like, are the guys like on top of the charts? No, don't even have a song on the radio. Like, except the Highway. Thanks, the Highway.
Shout out Sirius,
and
bro.
Octane. Yeah,
Shout out Sirius. Shout out Sirius, man. Huge.
Yeah, Sirius XM, the Highway. Was it channel 1? No, I'm not.
They're 56.
Yeah, they're 56.
And Octane, I want to say, is 40 or 39. Yeah. I listen to Turbo, which is channel 41 on my butt rock.
Turbo in the gym.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that piece has been the fact that we've been doing it together. We talked about this earlier, but like, the guys are businessmen. They both have done this for a long time. They had a vision. They knew what Lakeview was before I ever met them. And we did that. Like, we have managed together. Now it's finally kind of gotten to separation of church and state, right? They're doing the shows. I'm doing everything else with Wyatt, and it's a lot, man. But it's crazy. That was 3 years ago.
Yeah, dude. And I love those guys too. And it reminds me of from being with Gary and Charlie with Muscadine, where it's like two dudes that have just been in the trenches for a while, and it's like that proudly independent to a degree. Like, we know who we are, we know what we want to do, and they have that similar relationship with their manager Adam Hale, where it's very much they do as much of the planning and the shot calling, whereas some artists, every camp's different, and sometimes it'll be the artist being like, all right, what do you got for me so and so manager.
Yeah.
But like, there's that team, that structure where it's the three of you.
Yeah.
That is unique to find, you know, like you
unique
guys
to
are
find.
partners in the business that is Lakeview. You know, you guys like CEO, president, CFO, like you guys are all in the C-suite together, the three of you.
Yeah.
And then you had Wyatt into the fold too. Like you guys got a good thing fucking cooking. Which I like to tell this story whenever I'm talking with somebody that's mutuals with me and Wyatt. I first met Wyatt at a Muscadine show in Indianapolis at the 8 Second Saloon, and I told him, dude, you got to come to town. And then sure enough, he moved to town, and he was staying out at our rounds and all that, dude. And he's one of the best fucking guys in this city. I love Wyatt Carmichael, dude.
Yeah, man, what a guy. Wyatt, wow, you're getting a lot of love.
And I got to ask you, what's it like what's the relationship like being an artist manager after being a tour manager for so long? Now you're the artist manager communicating to the tour manager on the road. Like, dude, what's that like? Flipping the roles? Are you a little bit harder on him, you think? Or are you a little bit softer? Like, what is that like?
No, dude, man, Wyatt, can I take a second to brag on Wyatt too?
Yeah, go for it.
You should just have a little segment. If you both know Wyatt, just take a second.
If you know Wyatt.
If you know Wyatt. Dun, 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 dun. Dude, I met Wyatt through Lakeview. He reached out to me. He was with Lakeview before I was.
Yeah, going way back. This is like 40 years ago.
First got to town.
That was his first gig when he got to town, was going out with the Lakeview boys.
2019. And yeah, when Wyatt, and he'll say this too, when Wyatt went out in the early days with the Lakeview boys, first of all, not getting paid.
Yeah.
Classic example of talking about somebody who wants to break into the industry. Dude,
yeah, he was hungry.
If you don't love it and you're not hungry, just don't attempt. Like, I am so sorry. This is not the place where things just fall in your lap.
Yeah.
It just isn't. And yeah, so he moved from Indiana because he found Lakeview and he's like, I love these guys. They're moving to Nashville. Like, I guess I'll move there. Figure it out too.
Yeah.
So then when I started managing Lakeview, and I use this, it's funny, people who knew me during that time, like, would know me to use the air quotes every time I said manager, because I'm like, guys, I'm not actually a real manager.
Yeah.
We're just playing pretend for a while.
I'm just helping my buddies.
Yeah, I'm just helping my buddies out, man. But yeah, Wyatt, they were like, hey, do you mind if we I think Jesse was like, hey, we have this dude who moved from Indiana, and like, he's not really a tour manager, but like, he kind of like, he helps us a lot, and he like drives a van, and he like sells merch, and like just does anything we need, and he's pretty cool. Do you mind if we introduce you to him? He could be like helpful. And I was like, sure. Sounds like you got a groupie.
Sounds like a tour manager.
Yeah. Also, yeah, somewhere in between a groupie and a tour manager.
Yeah.
He's like, wait, does he get paid? No. Okay. He mostly just gets, pretty fucked up on the runs.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Let's see what's going on. But yeah, we grabbed coffee. He was working at Enterprise at the time, and this story is pertinent to this, because this again is like, if you're listening, or if you're like somebody who is like, man, how do I do this? Yeah. How do I do what you did? How do I get in there? And it's, Wyatt is like the class example of, hey, if I could somehow tell you how to do it, which I can't, because there's no right way, but if I could give you a perfect example of somebody who did it, it's him.
Yeah.
And he was working at Enterprise at the time, which for me at the time, I knew Enterprise because I flew all over the country and rented Enterprise cars, but also Enterprise has a very, very like good business program.
Yeah.
They're known for like starting like business development in their employees from day one, and like very good company for like upward, mobility, if that's what you want to do. And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting. He probably knows like how to send an email. And we met and learned more about him, and that's where I was just like, yeah, man, let's start getting you on the road and helping out more. I was tour managing at that time, so we started doing stuff together. I brought him out with the Seaforth boys. He was selling merch. He was there at that West Virginia festival, which was, man, that was funny to have him there too.
Yeah.
We all just had dinner this week, by the way, the Seaforth boys, and Wyatt and me, just first time in like a couple years, and we talked about that show.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, he just started helping out, and what's crazy is from the beginning I was like, okay, this kid, and I can't really call him a kid anymore, Like, this guy gets it. He's hungry. He's down to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And he's got like the, you know, the standard like organizational skill set and communication skills that like are required. I wouldn't say required, but they're what makes a really good tour manager, are some of those skills. And so I'm like, I really want to like help this kid navigate and figure it out. And we did. And then the script flipped, you know, when I then become a manager like full time, because when I was still TMing, like me and Wyatt were like, it was a little bit different dynamic because I was in the trenches with them. I was tour managing either Ern or Quinn XCII or whoever. Wyatt actually left Lakeview for a year to manage Josh Ross, and that was also kind of like, dude, yes, this is an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, get out there on the road with Josh.
Dude, get out and get the experience. Josh is crushing it, and it was a great time.
Yeah, the Nickelback tour.
The Nickelback tour.
Just like you learning,
dude,
going out there. That's Wyatt going and learning.
Yeah, and again, Wyatt was like he had just moved to town. He was only been here like a couple of years.
Yeah.
And like since he actually first started tour managing, that was still like less than a year.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you, like, if you get in and you like bust ass and you're hungry enough, like, yeah, it can happen very quickly for a tour manager too, just as quickly as it can happen for an artist.
Yeah.
Actually, quicker. You'll
yeah.
see that happen. You'll see TMs in a van and a U-Haul at Tin Roofs, and then like 2 years later, you'll see them in stadiums.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just a reality. Like, if you're good, you're going to move quick.
Yeah.
And Wyatt was good, and he moved quick. Luckily, we were able to get him back when I was like, hey, the Lakeview stuff is happening now. Like, and that was the goal for when I was tour managing. That was the goal, was like, I'm going to do this for as long as I have to until it makes sense and is financially stable for me, Jesse, and Luke to do Lakeview full time. And Jesse and Luke, being the artists and the owners of Lakeview, were the priority. So first was getting them out of their jobs and having them focus on music. And then it was me. But there was a lot of time between then, right? It was like, and they got that, man. They were understanding in the fact that, like, I had to put food on the table. I had to continue working as a TM for the first, like, couple years.
Yeah.
So.
No, and it takes that understanding and just seeing, again, how it's grown to where you guys were just in Europe. You got to do this Breaking Benjamin tour. You have another one with Breaking Ben coming up.
Yeah, crazy.
Like, and what's it like working with an act? Again, Nick, you've been all over the place with working within different genres. To be working with an act that can be playing freaking Tailgates and Tallboys to playing the Wacken Festival in Europe. Like, somebody that is on Channel 56 and on one of the serious rock stations on the highway to Octane. Like, what's it like? How when somebody asks you, like, what is Lakeview? Like, who is Lakeview? How do you, like, describe it?
Yeah,
as the manager.
They're country rock. How I've started describing it recently, which everybody loves. I don't know if the Lakeview guys will love. It's like if Hardy and FGL had like a really ugly kid.
Bro, that dude, I used to
not saying the Hardy or FGL are ugly.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the three of you guys. It's not going to come out.
I used to
good.
describe it as if like Mockingbird Crow era Hardy was both guys in FGL.
Such a good that was my favorite album of that year. By the way,
like if that version of Hardy was both BK and T Hub, that would be Lakeview. I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
I've said the similar thing.
Yeah, and it's like that kid again is like that kid's not a polished country radio kid. Like, it's just not right. Like the FGL guys, I mean BK and T Hub's like, first of all, I did a show with them in high school. It's a whole nother story. In Vero Beach, they were supporting Jake Owen when Barefoot Blue Jeans was happening.
I remember that. Yeah, they were on a song. They had a song together back then. Well, they had a couple songs that they did back together too. They were in that crew together because
I was in high school.
Florida State guys, BK and Jake Owen.
Well, and I was in high school, and I was like 16, 17, volunteering doing production for this show. And I met those guys, but like you got those guys, and they defined that era of country radio. Like, you could not turn the radio on without hearing Florida Georgia.
Oh, we've all been drunk at an FGL show,
dude. There's just nothing like, oh man, there is just not much better than like yeah, that was such a good time for
Here's
for
to the
country
good
music.
times.
Yeah.
FGL was just fun, man.
But and then you got them. That's like perfect. And then you got Hardy, who's pushing the limits quite a lot actually within the format, actually breaking the limits within the format
With all the breakdowns in
just
there,
everything
heavy
from start to finish, from Hardy as a human to his band to like what he's writing in his production to Joey Moy on the production piece as well, working with Nickelback. Like there is so much that Hardy did, right? So you have that, and then if you put them all together, there's gonna be this like kind of little like fucked up kid in the corner who's like a little rebellious but like has a crazy amount of talent, and you're like, what do we do with this one? That's Lakeview.
Hell yeah. I hope that's a clip right there.
Yeah, dude, that's Lakeview, man. And the guys will tell you too, like there's a clip of them talking about when they were in Germany, they were talking to somebody, and they're like, they were talking to Wayne and Austin with Tailgate and Tallboys on their podcast, and they were saying like, the first time you hear Lakeview, you're going to be confused. It's the whole point. Like, we're not doing anything else that anyone else is doing. Like, you're going to be confused. Whether it's like you're confused in a good way and you're like, oh my God, I love this. What is happening? Or you're confused and are like, oh, what? FGL? Hardy? Wait, what? Like, what is happening? And then for them, their live show is so insane, but they're like, it's a challenge for us. Like, by the end of the set, you're like, most people are going to love you. And that's not arrogant. Like there's so many insanely talented artists out there right now who are bigger and smaller and right in between. These guys, like it is proof of concept. You've been to a Lakeview show. You've watched it happen. You've seen people's faces at the start of the set, and then you've seen them just screaming and having a great time at the end of the set.
Yeah.
And like we see that night after night all around the world. And it is crazy. But that sound, and that's why. It's because it triggers something that's familiar but also new. And it's like that's what makes that like defining, disrupting like sound within the country music format, I think, is like, ooh, it could go rock, could go country. It's definitely in between.
Yeah, and that's why I love seeing them at festivals where it's people don't really know. They're like, oh, they see Lake, and then they'll go and listen beforehand, like to get ready. But a lot of times people won't jump and stream it before seeing them at the festival. And then by the end of the show, I cannot wait for, we have the Raised Rowdy camper party.
Yeah, at 60
at Country Concert. It's the most Raised Rowdy lineup of all time.
Yeah.
Old 60, Lakeview, Colby Acuff, and Shelby Ray.
Dude.
All people who've come up playing rounds, events that have like been
which is
in
so
our
sick, man.
Which is cool.
I hope. Congratulations.
Thank you, dude. It's gonna be fun, and it's like Nikki T's been going to that festival in Ohio for like a decade.
Yeah.
And this is the first year where they're finally listening to like, oh, Nikki's telling us about these people, which is sick. But dude, it's so cool watching what Lakeview's do. But dude, it's so cool hearing your story of like in the last 5 years where your life has gone
so different.
Like just think back, like you sign up to do that work remote, or what is it?
Yeah, no,
remote year, and then fast forward to 4 or 5 years later, like what the fuck, right?
Yeah, during like a very uncertain
everybody was uncertain
time. Yeah, I was going through it, man. I was right out of a breakup, just absolutely just down in the dumps, right? Like going through the mental health struggles, as was the rest of the world. So it was like to look back on the last 4 or 5 years and just see kind of what has happened out of it is crazy. And it's just, dude, it's just the bigger plan, trusting in God's plan, but also just like a whole lot of like really hard work and passion and motivation. And like, dude, your motivation, burnout, everybody talks about burnout, everybody gets burnout. Like motivation, if the motivation is the engine, it's fueled by passion. And if you're not putting passion into it, like, dude, your engine's only going to go so far.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing to see what happens when all of this passion around growing companies and working in music and working with people who want to do something different all collide, and then I get to pour all of myself into it. Like what happens in a short amount of time, it's not just me. It's like it's what you guys did too. It's what Raised Rowdy has done.
Yeah, dude. And we're so happy to get to collaborate and work on so many different projects. Real quick, what are your what do you miss most about tour managing, and what do you not miss most about tour managing? I'm gonna hit you with a couple questions
Am
here.
I
at the
taking
end.
too
Yeah.
much time? Sorry.
No, not at all. No. You're doing great. We're on it. We're on a good time.
It's gonna be a
schedule right now.
long episode. It's all right.
Oh, it's a perfect episode. Yeah, it's going great.
Okay, say it again. What do I miss?
What do you miss the most, and what do you not miss?
Yeah, dude.
From
I
tour managing.
just had this thought the other night. Dude, I really miss the show days, believe it or not, which is crazy because, right, we talked about earlier, you could have show days from hell and you could have show days that run perfectly. Not a whole lot of perfect show days, but something about planning and executing a concert is just so fun for me.
Yeah.
Man. Like
It's game day, baby. It's fun.
dude, it's game day. It is.
You literally, it's like it's game day. It's
It
like
is
Friday
my
Night
game
Lights. Yeah, it's fun.
It is, and there's so many pieces, and there's so much there's just so much that goes into it. From if you're playing to 100 people or 100,000 people, like it's still game day. It's still the same feeling of like, man, all right, let's go, let's get to work, let's get this thing done. So I miss that part of it. I love show days. I love waking up before everybody else and just being the first in the venue and just ready to absolutely crush, right? Like, so I miss that part. The travel is both answers, I would say. The travel is like, man, I've gotten to see places I never thought I would ever see in my whole life. I've fallen in love with Australia. I've been 4 times now. I'm obsessed.
That's crazy to say.
Yeah.
4 times to Australia.
In the last 4 years.
For work.
Yeah, for work.
For work.
For work. Yeah, man. Oh, man, Australia is just the best place ever. But the places, right? Awesome. The little tiny towns that you get to go to, the in-between middle of nowhere spots. But double-edged sword, right? I think last year my flights were down. The year before I had like 170 something flights. Like just constant, dude, that takes it out. Like praise God, Delta, right? Like best airline, good status, little plug there, but like waking up, taking a shower in a new shower you've never seen before, putting everything you own into a bag, going downstairs into a vehicle, into an airplane, off the airplane and doing it over and over and over again, or into a bus or into a Sprinter or whatever, you name it. But like the rhythm of constantly moving and traveling is something I do not miss.
Yeah.
Oh man. I'm going out this weekend with the boys. First run since Europe. First run of the year for me too. And I'm like, part of me is like game day, but part of me is like, I don't want to do the travel.
Where are you guys going?
Dude, it's gonna be sweet. They have their first show in Athens, doing Georgia Theater.
Oh, these are like the Peachtree shows.
Yep.
Sick.
Yep. So first one in Athens with them at Georgia Theater, and then they're doing Jackson, Tennessee.
Hub City.
Nice.
Nice.
And then they're going down to Baton Rouge to play with Chase Matthew.
Oh, that'll be sick.
Night before the Super
Bowl. Is that
Bowl.
at the Texas Club?
That's at the Texas Club, I think. Yeah.
That's wild. That you just speak the language. You're in this long enough. You just speak like venues.
Like, is Bill still over there?
Yeah.
Bill's a great guy.
Yeah, you can just say a city and you can list out like the venue. Baton Rouge is a lot of fun. If you guys get a chance to go to Tigerland down there, where it's like their college trip, fucking wild.
I've never been to Baton Rouge.
Those LSU kids, they're awesome, and the food down there is great. Definitely,
some spots.
and you're getting into crawfish season right now. Is like the start, so you can get like venue will be able to hook you up with that stuff. They'll get you in all the right directions, which will be sick. And then you've been to Athens before, right?
Yeah, I've done Georgia Theater. It's
beautiful.
Times. Yeah, such a beautiful.
Another great college town. And then Jackson's fun because
never done Hub City, so
it's a cool little spot. I think the boys will tear the roof off the place. I think they're gonna love it in there.
Yeah, no, coming up this weekend. That's happening, but it's like, the movement of the travel is something I don't miss. I really enjoy, being home more and having time to do stuff like this and catch up with friends who I haven't seen in the last couple of years because I've just been on the road.
Yeah. Do you think having the experience of being on the road helps you as a manager? Especially like deciding on dates that come from booking.
Yeah.
Deciding on this, that, like having that, coming, because there's people that are like studio people, or that are like music people on the back side of it, like in the creation process, that are like writers or this or that first, but not out in the trenches with the live show, seeing the fans interact, like knowing all of that stuff. I think that gives you like you've seen some advantages coming from TMing to, I guess, just Aing, artist management, or AMing,
TMing to AMing.
TMing to AMing.
Yeah, back to an AM. Is what you were called in tech, account manager. Or, yeah, but yeah, dude, the advantages, I think you probably know, like the advantages are crazy. And any manager who doesn't have the touring experience that I've talked to will tell you, like, yo, this is a massive gap for me that I need. So any manager who doesn't have touring experience is generally leaning on their tour manager pretty heavily, or bringing somebody else in to kind of lead up touring, which doesn't happen unless you're under like a management company, right?
Yeah.
Like Quinn XCII had Alex Feld, who's like a legendary tour manager here in Nashville, doing this a long time in the pop world. He was like, he's their tour manager. And so like he manages all the TMs. He's an artist manager. He's part of the creative process of the artist's career, but his focus, since he's done the world a million times now, is to really lead the business, because their management team was like, yeah, that's a gap that we need to fill to best serve the artist, especially when you have an artist who's such a touring heavy act like Lakeview or like Quinn XCII or a lot of country acts. But yeah, man, the advantages are so valuable. Like, and especially working with Wyatt, like on that question too of how we interact, like that's a big one. It's like me and him get to make these decisions together now, and it's helpful because I have been there and done it, and he's actively there and doing it. So like he reminds me of the stuff I miss, and I understand when he's like, ooh, maybe look at this, and I'm like, oh shit, you're right. But like if I didn't have that context as a tour manager first, and have the understanding of like when to trust Wyatt when he's like, hey, I think this is probably the best option here, and me being like, you know what, I actually see how he got there, he's right. Yeah. You know, if I didn't have that, it's tough. Yeah. It's tough. The tour manager to manager relationship is either amazing or it's like tough.
Yeah. And even when it comes to like settlements and deal structures, what was it like walking into, because you had closed deals and set up deals on the tech side, and in your past life working in corporate America, so to speak. What was it like going, like, do you remember those like early settlements, and did you ever get like tripped up on settlements and stuff?
Still get tripped up. Settlements are just, they should be so simple, and sometimes they are. And when they are, it's like
what is this doing in a deal memo?
And then sometimes it's like, whoa, why is this so complicated? Yeah, I think walking in, luckily I had an amazing teacher, Joe Angel, that manager who got me on my first gig.
I gotta say, I love his name's Joe Angel. Yeah. He works in the Christian music world. Like that is just fantastic.
Well, that's his first name, Joe Angel Sanchez.
Joe Angel, okay.
But like Joe Angel's his first name, full name. Yeah, and he works in the Christian. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, he's a weapon, man. He used to work in like the Latin music pop world, like globally. Yeah, he's a legend. But he when we were on that Crowder tour, the best way to learn literally anything is by doing. I think we can all like stand by that. Chick-fil-A, I'm obsessed with the Chick-fil-A model. If you want to be an owner of Chick-fil-A, you know you have to do every single role. You have to like drop the fries. You got to do the cash register. You got to do the bathrooms.
Understand every part of your business.
You have to spend like a good amount of time, like I think of like several weeks or a couple months in each position before you can even be considered to start the interview process to become an owner operator. Guess why that's Chick-fil-A is like that good. Like anywhere you go, it's like any Chick-fil-A you ever go to, you probably have the same experience and it's probably pretty good. Yeah. But that whole thing of like learning all the pieces was huge. And the settlement piece was Joe Angel would bring me each night. We'd go settle the shows together. And, you know, that's the other thing, like working with venues and promoters, like it's crazy. You're going to get some that are tough. You're going to get some that are amazing. You're going to get everything in between. At the end of the day, they're doing a job too, just like you. They want what's best for them, and you want what's best for your artist, and so you're making a deal every night in settlement at the end of the day. Like sometimes it's just you probably know this too, but like sometimes it's just like a negotiating bloodbath. It's like, I'm not paying for that. Like that's not. All right, well we can live without this over here. Or like let's switch this around. You just have to. It's a puzzle. You got to make a fit. So going and having those reps with Joe Angel and him coming in and being like, hey, I'm gonna like have Matt walk through the settlement with you when we're done, just so he understands it, if that's cool. And promoters were always like awesome. They're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing with Wyatt.
Yeah, I had a couple of those where the promoter would walk through it, like the venue would walk through it with me, kind of thing, like after, because they knew I was like a new guy or whatever.
Yeah, as long as you're, man, I had drinks last night, with a guy named Chris Parr. You know Chris Parr?
The name rings a bell.
Aldine, management team for Aldine and Brooks and Dunn and Rascal and Darius, like just legend in the industry. We had just met, but we were talking and we came across this like common denominator of like he's a legend and has had an amazing career, and I'm the new guy, and I'm like, hey, what do I do here? What do I do here? And he's like, dude, you're asking questions, which is all that matters. And if you're not asking questions, if you're going into a settlement thinking me, right, which is in the early days, like I had to have like a reality and a gut check when I first started teaming. That was like, yo, your shit does stink actually. So like, you like chill. Yeah. And I had a couple of TMs that like saw that and really helped me with those conversations. And I also just had a couple of reality moments for myself where I realized it. It's like walking into a settlement, thinking to yourself, like I've led sales teams, I've worked for these companies, I interact with CEOs of Fortune 100 companies. Like you have this thing in your head, like I can do this. No. But I went into those settlement meetings asking questions. Always ask questions. Yeah. Not just on settlements, literally everything.
Yeah.
Wait, hey, why? Just out of curiosity, venue production manager, man, I know you have our trucks parking over here. It's just kind of like a really big inconvenience, maybe. Like just out of curiosity, why do you have us parking over here? There's going to be an answer. He's going to teach you. Well, Matt, because this and this, and at this time that delivery truck comes in, then your trucks are going to be blocking my drive, and then we're all screwed, right? So, like, I need you to park over there for now. And then next time you go to that venue, you're like, hey, guys, we're parking over there now. You don't even have to ask. Yeah. Somebody like Wyatt reaches out. Hey, what do you know about this venue? Oh, hey, heads up. You need to park over there on that one. I would have never known that if I didn't just, like, ask. Yeah. Same with a settlement. Yeah, hey, why is this number here, and where did it come from?
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's flip through and look. And yeah, dude, that's how I approached this industry as a whole.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the best way to do it is to learn and ask questions. And yeah, I think, dude, it's having that transition, because it's like, even for me now, like we go to the music festivals as Raised Rowdy, and like the tailgate ones, we're getting to MC, like we're getting to do a lot of cool stuff. But now planning our crew that comes on the road with us, I'm kind of like, it's like I'm TMing again. Yeah. Planning the van rental, the trailer. Guys, we're gonna be going for 6 hours here. We're gonna be stopping here. We're gonna have guys. These are your hotel rooms. This is what we're gonna do for food. Like this,
you are TMing again.
Yeah, I'm TMing while emceeing a festival. It's like, it's wild. It's fun, but the skills that you learn in the situations, because you see it all on the road, and the amount of time that you spent on the road, you really saw it all. What do you think the 3 biggest keys to being a great tour manager are?
Oh man, you couldn't have told me this before.
I know. I'm thinking of this on the spot, dog. This is my first music biz one that I've done. Usually mine are just like all over. We'd be talking about like aliens and shit by now.
We should.
This was on Outside the Round.
We should talk about aliens. That's crazy. My roommate watches a lot of alien documentaries.
Oh, dude, yeah, they're great. Let's talk about the rabbit hole, man. You can spend years looking into that stuff.
Man, 3 most important things. Tough. I'll riff, I guess, again.
Yeah, go for it.
Communication is huge across the board. If you're somebody who's like does not communicate well with people, and you know that, and it's tough for you to have hard conversations, and that sounds like the worst thing in the world for you, probably not a tour manager career path for you. Yeah. So like just having communication skills, both verbally and dude, just emails, texting, like just basic communication. Organization, logistics, right? So like that kind of brain, that understands how to keep a lot of puzzle pieces. Like imagine I speak in analogies. Is that what it is? A lot?
Yeah.
Metaphors. I try to describe tour managing to people as getting a puzzle out of a box, dumping it on a table, doing as much of the puzzle as you can before you have to leave.
Yeah.
And once you do leave, you like scoop it back into the box. And then when you get to where you're going, you have to dump it back out again and put together what you can, like what you remember or what was already there.
Yeah.
And you got to keep filling in the rest of the puzzle.
Yeah.
So like if that sounds like hell to you, like, yeah. Not having the ability to keep things straight and organized is huge, and then kind of what we talked about earlier, just the cool, calm, collected, which again it's a struggle. It's one of those things where I'm not very perfect at that. That's a struggle for me.
That was where I struggled. The organization and the keeping the cool head, especially like going into those rowdy college clubs on like the Dick Down in Dallas tour when we were going, man. I saw all kinds of shit, like it was wild. And like you're loading out, but there's the whole crowd's now dancing to the wobble and you're trying to get the gear out and this and that.
Yeah.
And you got just chaos and craziness going on.
Well, and for me, it's like I keep the cool. That's I think what I'm lucky with is I keep the cool on the outside, right? Which is good. That's imperative. But on the inside, where nobody else sees, is where like it actually struggles. And so it's kind of a silent battle for me on the road. Like the mental health piece of being a tour manager is pretty wild.
Yeah.
So like, you got so many people every day who are just asking you questions and everything they do. Like all of a sudden, when you go, when your band and crew go on the road, all of a sudden they just forget how to be adults. And like, dude, please, every band and crew guy out there is listening and gal, like this is no disrespect, but you know this because I've been there too. I've been just crew before. Like, yeah, it's like, where's the coffee today? Or like first question in the morning, every morning, where's the bathroom? And it's like, dude, imagine if I wasn't here and you needed a bathroom. What would you do? You'd go look for a bathroom.
You'd walk outside and see the sign that says restrooms.
Until you found a bathroom, you would go look for it.
I always wanted to get, because I would use Artist Growth, but the guys that have the Check Master Tour or It's On Master Tour hats and T-shirts.
Yeah. Yeah, Check Master Tour hat, Check Master Tour mug.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. But no, I think that piece is crucial because you won't last. If you can't kind of overcome that and master that, like especially if your artist needs it. There's some artists who like got it locked in. Like don't matter what their TM's doing. Like they either have the confidence or they have the experience or a little mix of both. Where it's like I'm good. Like I'll be all right. Like everything's cool. But if you're like losing your mind all the time and showing people like let me be clear, we're all losing our mind all the time. Every tour manager is, but if you're showing that and you can't really like figure out how to like develop that skill set, then I think it's gonna be tough. And it's a very important one. Yeah,
agreed. Yeah, for sure. It definitely is. So what are some goals for you for this year now? We're just starting off 2025.
Yeah.
Managing Lakeview, you got a great TM out there and Wyatt working for them, Jesse and Luke going up. What are some goals for you, either personal or career?
Yeah, personal goals are to get like all those pieces of my life that I put on hold for the music industry, I think that's the other thing to think about and to glean from this conversation. It's like I wanted this bad enough that I put a lot of my life on hold for it.
Yeah.
Right? Hobbies were the first thing to go. Relationships, time, living situation. Like everything is on hold right now for this. So picking up those pieces, right? I had all this time that I had to fill every waking hour. I had to go tour manage this or go fill in for this gig or go manage the Lakeview piece. And like once I was done with something, there was always something else.
Yeah.
So personally, taking that time that I've gotten back now and just like enjoying it again, hanging out with friends like you.
Yeah.
Hopefully doing a little bit more. I bought a Harley last year.
Hell yeah.
In anticipation of like getting back into things that I used to love, riding bikes. So
Yeah.
like do some riding, do some more golfing, hopefully do
Nice.
some more fishing this year, like the good things to keep you sane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting time with family, dude. That's what I miss. I missed so many. I missed weddings. You miss this. You miss that. Like
Everything.
you get caught up in it, and you do miss a lot of shit.
Yeah. And you feel like you can't miss it, right? You're like whether you're an integral part of the touring machine or not, which as a tour manager you are, but like you still feel like you're missing a game, right?
Yeah.
Like you're missing. I can't miss the game, dude. This is a big one. You find a way to justify it, and then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, man, I have missed, so many birthdays and weddings and these things, and like let's get some of those back. So I think there's definitely like an importance to establish that balance up front. It's a tough one to do.
Yeah.
But I spent a month in Florida.
Good.
Over the holidays. And
when was the last time you were able to do that?
Dude, when I was in tech, I used to spend 2 months in tech because it was just like a snowbird. It's like, go work from the beach for a couple months while it's cold in Denver, whatever. Dude, I've been home like one time a year since I got into this. And it's been brutal. It's taken a hit on my family relationships for sure. So like this year I like made a whole thing. I was like, I'm going to get my own spot. I'm going to get my own spot in my hometown and stay for a while and like just catch up have the ability to be like, yo, what are you doing tonight to a friend or to a family member without being like, oh, I'm here for 3 minutes and got to go, Yeah. So it was great just doing that kind of stuff personally. And then professionally, man, I think right now, I'm starting to get some inbounds of folks who are interested in management or artists who are interested in a manager or anything in between. I think, I'm excited for whatever's next. My focus is not growing my management company this year. I'm launching my management company. I guess that's a big thing this year.
Yeah, and and we're still going by
Magic. No,
it's not Magic. What's the name?
It's Disrupt.
Disrupt. That is so on brand for you, brother.
Yeah, man. I'll get you a hat. I'm really excited. I've been working on it for a long time because I don't really want to. I think there's this weird thing when I switched in the music industry. Everybody who knew me before was kind of like, "What is he doing?" Yeah. Like, you get that question when you go home. Oh, you still doing the music thing?
Yeah.
Or like my granny in Kentucky is like, well, Matthew, you still going around the world with that rock band? Like everybody's just kind of views it as this hobby, a phase, right?
And trying to explain it to your family of what you do.
Good luck.
It just doesn't make sense.
It's impossible.
I run into that with Raised Rowdy. Like they all love what I'm doing, and luckily I've got a very supportive family, and it's awesome. But they're like, yeah, so what's going on with Raised Rowdy?
Dude, my family, same thing. They're all stoked. They're the most supportive ever, but they're all just like, how do you support yourself?
Yeah, like how do you make a living?
Yeah, and what do you do?
Yeah, so you help put on these concerts and you travel with the band and you make a living doing that? It's like,
which sounds crazy. Sounds crazy, kind of. Yeah. Yeah, man. But I right, this was all organic. Like the management piece just kind of happened. The magic, magic management as the beginning was just kind of a joke to like house the income from all the different artists I had to work with in order to put food on the table. Yeah. And then I got to last year as I was planning this transition in 25 was planned pretty far back. I took one last final tour with Quinn. We knew it months in advance. It was like, this would be my final tour. This would be my last hurrah. Like 2025, I'm transitioning full time to management. And so I had time to really take a step back and work with a brand company around what I wanted my brand and my company to represent and what I believe, like, not necessarily me, but what it has evolved into, which at this point in time, it's foundational on Jesse, Luke, and Wyatt. Like, they are co-founders in Disrupt, basically, right? Like, and I worked with this management company and figured out really quick, because I was going to keep Magic. And we figured out really quick that just didn't represent anything that I was trying to convey as far as like, hey, there's no magic tricks here.
Yeah.
You can't wave a magic wand and become a country music star. Like, nobody has the secret hidden password to making you famous. Like, just that, none of that resonated with like what I was interested in. And so we started talking about the tech industry again, and the more influence in the tech industry was like, dude, in tech, every morning I would get, an email newsletter from this company called TechCrunch or Morning Brew, or like these like nerdy tech startup emails.
Yeah.
And they would have a section every morning of disruptors. And it was the tiny little tech companies who were making waves. And it's like, these two guys in their dormitory at Harvard created this software and it's doing this, and they've sold 100 million, whatever. And it's like, holy shit, everybody's interested in that, right? Everybody wants to know about the disruptors. Everybody wants to know about what's happening different.
Yeah.
And then when you start working with those companies, you have, if you're an investor into a tech company, like you're a VC, PE, like if you're somebody who is investing capital into a company and wants to help them succeed, you have to then take their product and their vision and their roadmap, and you have to help them sell it, and you have to help them grow it. And everything is focused on growth. But like, looking for the disruptor, big tangent, but like looking for the disruptor.
You're right. I'm loving this right now.
Is what it specifically within the startup tech community is what everybody's obsessed with, and they want to know. Everybody's always looking for it. And you think about Uber, like think about tech disruptors for a second. Like, Uber is maybe one of the biggest tech disruptor of our generation.
They created a whole industry,
brand new, out of thin air. I mean, well, to be fair, it wasn't out of thin air. It was just different than taxis. They found a different way of doing it.
Yeah, the modern way
better.
with one of these things.
Dude, disruptor. All these softwares out there now are all disrupting, right? You've got software who that'll do your accounting for you. You've got software that, oh my God, we have AI now. It's like all these different things are all disruptors, and they become these massive pieces and industries and companies, and but at one point they were all doing something different than everybody else. And Apple, like, we all know the story of Steve Jobs, like we all know the IBM, like we all know how these massive companies were founded because they were all doing it differently. And that's where I landed on disrupt, and it's disrupt music, and it's just, I want to work with people not only like internally, so like Wyatt, but externally, so like an artist who are disruptors. That's it. I want to look through the lens of not being afraid to do something differently and breaking a mold, and not on purpose necessarily, but just because, like, dude, it's not a formulaic industry as much as it is, right? Because historically, the music industry is very, once you get into major label land, it's very formulaic. It's like, this is how you break the artist. You start here, you do this, you invest into this next, you put this song out, you put this project out, you get on the road, you put TikToks, like, right? It's like, here's the checklist of things we need to do. Dude, do you think Uber had a checklist of things to do when they built their company?
No.
They had to make the checklist. And so for me, and again, not saying that is a way to be successful in the music industry. The first way I just
But there's in these modern times.
It's the Wild West now. It
is. And it's, why not? And you're doing it with Lakeview, and there are so many kids, dude. We'll talk off the mic. I've got a list of like a dozen like, that's what we get to see by doing all these damn events. We're hosting 10 events a month right now. We're seeing kids that are just coming up, and it's like they're just getting to town.
That's
and
what
their
I'm saying.
shit's sounding all wacky, and it's like, why have somebody try to change this kid when the shit's cool? Like, just amplify and let him disrupt. So I get it, man.
Just let him disrupt. If an artist, like painting, like if a painter artist signed to a label, like if artists had labels, okay? They imagine this for a second. Imagine Picasso signing to Sony Art Group. And Sony Art Group, sorry, I didn't mean to say Sony Art. I'm just using one as a...
Whatever art group. Yes.
Whatever art group.
Sony Art, not
Major label art group.
Major label art group, yes.
And Major label art group A says, we've got all these successful, artists just like you and painters just like you. Can you paint art that looks like that for us so we can make it go boom again? can you imagine like that conversation with a Picasso, with an artist who is like creating their art? So that's where I'm like, dude, I don't, whether you like it or not, right? It's subjective. Whether you like the sound or the music or the artist or the voice or the guitars or the production or anything, it's all, there's going to be a flavor for everybody.
Yeah.
But if you find that combination of passion, hard work, and like clear vision, along with that disruptive, like that's different, it's like, why wouldn't I want to put the time and energy into that if it resonates with me, right? Or if I'm fired up about it, right? Yeah. And those are the ones that are like, they're cutting through the noise. You've seen it through your rounds. Yeah. You know, if you go into a round and you've got 20 acts, 15, 20 acts on the bill that night, how many of those would you say are the ones that are like, at the end of the night, you're like, wow, that was different, and you remember them?
Yeah, we do the full band things on Wednesdays, and the full bands I really like because that's where we get folks that lean a little bit more rock or lean a little bit more pop. We have this band, they're called Dasher, and they're like, they come from like the worship world, but their harmony, it's like a Shane Smith meets Tyler Childers meets like, it's the crowd wouldn't make, like I was going up to outro them, they played another 4 songs, 3 of them were covers. The crowd, the bar didn't want them to stop playing. They were a closer for the night. Yeah. So holy shit. And these kids are like 20 years old, 21. They're babies. They're going to school at Lipscomb. You know, it's like you never know what you're going to get. And that's the exciting part about now getting to be on the management side. Because when you're TMing, it's like, oh, that's cool. But like now you get a chance to, if you think something's cool, you can invest your time and your efforts into it. You know?
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
exciting.
And you can actually build something. And it's like, and that, I mean, that's again the longest answer in the world to your question. But that's
I love
Matt Woodson known for that. But that's a goal this year, is not necessarily to build Disrupt, to launch Disrupt, which will happen. The branding's done. It's sick. The hats are sick. I'll get you on. I'm very excited about visually what it represents. I also want it to be a proper rollout. You know, I'm not like, I need Granny to understand what's happening. You know, like, so, you know, website's being built now. We'll roll it out. We'll launch with Lakeview. I'm not in a rush to sign more acts right now. We've got so much work ahead of us for Lakeview. We have so much work now.
This year's going to be a big, big year, bro.
Dude, it's already like shaping up to be crazy, and I'm just really proud of the guys and everything that's going on there, and the fans that support them. It's just so cool.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate the hell out of you coming on. We did well on here. We almost got 2 hours out of this thing.
Oh man,
that's solid.
Keep going.
I know we could keep going for sure. But dude, where can people go to find you on Instagram? What's the best way if somebody is like, I really resonated with what Matt Woodson said on here? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Oh, it's tough.
Is it Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram's fine. I'm not, believe it or not, as an artist manager, I'm not super active on socials. It's one piece of the puzzle that's like, I let somebody else handle. But yeah, Instagram's fine. Matt Boy Magic, it's still the same.
Hell yeah.
Maybe one day we'll change that, but that's a story for another time. College adventure. Matt Boy Magic on Instagram. Matt Woodson, I guess, on Facebook. Never on Facebook. Don't send me a message.
Are you on LinkedIn? Are you still on LinkedIn?
I'm still on LinkedIn. You get me.
That's a good place to.
You can hit me up on LinkedIn. Yeah,
yes, the professional social media.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think, like, you know, if you're somebody who's wanting to do this, start there, and don't give up if somebody's like, hey, I good luck. I don't have the time for you right now. Like, that's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
Keep going. Keep finding somebody that'll believe in you, give you the chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I appreciate the hell out of you coming on. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Y'all be on the lookout for Disrupt coming very soon. Our boy Matt Woodson. Be sure to check out Lakeview, and yeah, thank you for coming on here. And this was a cool first like music biz one. For me to do, talking about the TMs and the AMs and your story, and It was badass. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. Appreciate y'all. Visit raisedrowdy.com for more on us. We got shirts, we got hats, we got a bunch of shit out for you guys to check out on the website. Also, shout out to our friends from Surfside. We're going to send Matt home with a 4-pack of the vodka iced teas and some Raised Rowdy gear. Also, shout out for the Lakeview gear, man. This hat is sick, man. I'm loving the new Lakeview gear. So,
yeah, dude.
Y'all get out and go to a Lakeview show sometime soon. But for my man Matt, I'm Matt. This has been Behind the Music Biz.